My name is Roy Bernick, Jim, and I'm glad you came here today because there's lots to see, and I want you to enjoy it as well as I do every day when I come down here to work, and I enjoy it. It was probably most of my life I've been doing this, and I enjoy every minute of it. There's so many, and I do like the early cars, so you're going to see the early cars in this collection. We'll start with this one here. It was right here. It was a pan made of pan, and he had this for watch fobs and stuff. And then, so I had those spun out, and I thought that was kind of neat because here are the handles, of course, and that went over well on his ideas of putting stuff together. Okay, we got, here's a reel where I'm taking on the New London, New Brighton run, and I should work good. I had it out yesterday and she worked beautiful. It's a 2-cylinder, and I don't have to mention the horsepower, 18 to 20 horsepower, but it'll go over 40 miles an hour easy. But,
where did you get this car?
This car came from Duluth, Minnesota. A guy up there passed away, and this car came available. A lawyer called me and he says, "We got to get rid of the cars, and come on up and take a look," and which I did. And of course, I fell in love with this looking. It's a beautiful looking car, and I haven't done really much to it at all. It was in good shape when I got it. And I've had it on the car run many years already. Oldsmobile in 1904, he had to, he got out of the Oldsmobile manufacturing because of his board members. He didn't get along with them, and they wanted to build a huge car. And he said, "I want to stay small." So in 1904, then he started to come out with his own little car, which is a reel. He had to use his initials because he couldn't use Oldsmobile. Those are his initials, Ransom. Here's a little wagon I picked up lately. You don't see them with lights on, and I thought it was kind of neat for the kid to go down the street, and maybe even at night. And there's batteries in the back, and he could pull that, and it'd be a little safer, I think. It's kind of cute, kind of very unusual, very unusual, very unusual. As you say, there's pictures here. I love pictures. Pictures tell the story, and you can just look at them and enjoy it because each one has its own design. Just by looking at it, you know exactly what type of car it is or what the name of it is here. And here are some old pictures here that says St. Cloud. St. Cloud, this is the guy who won first prize of all these cars in St. Paul, Minnesota. And they had a gathering, and the car from St. Cloud won the first prize. I thought it was kind of unusual. These are Pantown houses that he built. Mr. Pandolfo built these houses. This is in the process of being built, which is kind of unusual. Very unusual. And then we go to the picture here, 100th anniversary of the Curb Dash Oldsmobile in Lansing, Michigan. There were 75 cars that showed up. So there's a lot of these little Curb Dashes out there. And we had a great time. We had spent a week there touring and hearing the history of the Oldsmobile. And Ransom, he was quite a guy, quite a guy. He did a heck of a job. In fact, the little Curb Dash was the first mass-produced little car. And people think it's Ford, but it was, I think it was, in the readings it says that it was Oldsmobile. And, but he did a beautiful job. He kept it, like I say, he kept it very nice and light when he first started out. This is 1919 Holmes Holmes, kind of a freaky looking car, probably the only one like it, even though he made Tourings also, but this might be the only one. It's an air-cooled engine in there. He was the engineer for the Franklin Manufacturing Company, and he really did a nice job on the engine and stuff like that. But this was a kind of a neat design, but they only were in business a few years, but he broke away in 1915. And so now, and this is kind of cute inside there. You can see the seat is backwards there, and that way the missus can talk to the two people in the back, and she can tell the driver where to go and how to drive. So it's a great plus for your wife. Anyway.
I love the hat on.
Yeah,
I love that. You're like now the conductor. You're
right,
like
yeah.
more official.
Yeah. This is the one I wore across the United States, and we'll go into that later on.
All right.
And these are just more pictures again. Well, here, as long as we're here, we can see the map of the United States. And we started in San Francisco, and we went all the way across 38 days and into Manhattan, New York, there, out of New York.
What year did you do that?
That was in 1985.
And was that the car that you drove?
Yeah, and I have the car, yeah, in the back room. And the Oldsmobile, I actually took it to London, Brighton Run, the London Brighton Run. I do the New London and New Brighton here, but the London Brighton one over in England is fantastic. They put it on every year, and the year we went over there was over 400 some cars of 19 up to 19 1 and 2 cylinders anyway. So they have a lot of early stuff. And just more pictures. Here's my pictures going across the United States. It's kind of neat how it was fun. It was fun. There were long days, but there were 3 of us, and 1902, a 1903, and 1904 Oldsmobile. And if you get up close here, you can see the two buildings there that were up at that time. They were in New York that were burned down. And we said, okay, we got more on this side of the wall. We got Mr. Pandolfo again. Here's Mr. Pandolfo, and and his family. A little history, and this is in 1917 he had the big feast of the bread and everything out there, and steaks. And I think he went through Mr. Hunstinger at the time. Let's see, this is the manufacturing here of the building that Mr. Pandolfo did a fantastic job. In three years he was going so fast, and he was an honest man. I met him in '56. He was a great fellow, I think, and I think he meant to do well, but some other manufacturing, they probably thought he was moving too fast, and they got to get him out of business before because he was so far ahead of other people. Even International, I think, was getting scared because Pandolfo came out with a good tractor and farm equipment. So see what else is here. Oh, just other pictures, of course. In 1903, here it shows here that when we went across the United States with the Oldsmobile, we went the same route as they did in 1903. And this was the old Scout, and they went across. And this is Omaha, where there was a lot of water at that time, so they had to drive through the water. Here they're showing off on the steps. They give Indians rides. That was in 1903. So we took the same route we did in '85. Fantastic. And we followed it very, very close, very close. Well, you buy extra parts, you know, speedometers, cables, old spark plugs. I like to, I'm a collector, so I collect a lot of different things, but you never know when you might use them.
Right. Well, you know, each one is a story.
Right, each one,
like, Just like your photography, all your photos are stories.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And interesting speedometers in there that were so different. And lights from up here, several. Unreal, unreal. A couple of little cars up, play cars of my family up there, my family. And then I had Elmer Dahl restore those cars that we had for my kids. So here's International, 1916, which my grandfather opened the business. He bought from two guys that were in the bottling business in St. Cloud here. He bought Tuffendorf. The names were Tuffendorf from Pontiff. Anyway, he bought their business, and he opened it up, and then he took on the Schmidt beer. But this one here is 16 International that was something like some of the ones that he had. I do have pictures way back when. But this one here we'll have in the parade next year. We'll be celebrating 100 years of Bernick's being in the business, of course, because it's 1916. And so we got a little bit to do on this one, and then she's ready to go. When he bought the business, I don't believe there was any brewery in town here. Anybody had any beer? Maybe it was shipped in. So he went down to St. Paul and got the Schmidt Brewery to give him the franchise for Schmidt beer. And so he went all these little towns. They all started out, and they had Schmidt beer, and that's how you got the good start on everything. St. Stephen's was Trobick. He kind of put them in business when he started out. But like I say, that's what it takes. Somebody like that to give these little towns. They all got to have a bar. This is the 27 Model T. I finished it up. I come from Luxembourg. A guy out there was going to make a street rod out of it. And I could see the possibilities, but what a beautiful looking car. I just finished it up, and we're taking on a few road treks now. And it goes by the serial number. It's one of the last Model Ts made before they went into the Model A's in '28. So that's how it's, but she's a cutie. Being a roadster and all, kind of unusual, very unusual, I think. It's the personality, and each one is, like I say, from a distance you can tell right away what they are and who made them and stuff like that. It was just, and that's what the kind of cars that you'll see today are the ones that I find interesting, not the everyday cars that you see on the road today, which is, they all look the same when you come from a distance. But years ago, we used to stand back and try and, as the cars go by, we used to try and name them off. And that was fun. The Oldsmobile, 1915 Oldsmobile. There isn't too many of these left for some odd reason. Why there isn't more, they must have got all junked up, but they were good cars. It's just that I don't have it all restored, but it's, this one here, I think I picked it up from a guy in New York there. He brought it over. We made some trades of cars, and I thought it was interesting. Kind of a neat, design there anyway. And then it has a walnut dash to it, which is nice. So they made them very pretty also. That was pretty. That was well done. I got the top to do yet, but anyway. And then I made this little wagon back here with a picture in a book. They had a picture of one of these in the back of a Model T that was going across the bridge. And I looked at it. It was only about an inch big, as all the picture was. So I had it blown up, and then I had the airplane wheels, and so I had a guy design it in St. Cloud here, Bernick, and he built it for me. So it looks kind of it's fantastic. Well, we could with the like I say, there's a lot of pictures in here again. This is Franklin. They started in 1903, I believe, 2 or 3, and they went up to 1934. But this was they were built something of this order. This is 1905. The E design, which is one of the better designs, and it has a 4-cylinder, and they're air-cooled. Now, when I talk about Franklins today, because I have 10 of them, I kind of fell in love with a guy that John from Elk River. He came down and he stopped in here one time, and his last name was Haslund, by the way. So then we had coffee every day, because every week, because he came in and had to go to the doctor, so we had coffee, and he talked me into Franklins. I didn't think I'd ever get a Franklin, but
got 10 of them now.
I got 10 of them, yeah, and they're air-cooled. And I can tell you right away, on a Franklin, on the bigger ones that I have, there's 110 less parts. Less parts because you're doing away with all this water stuff, the pumps and everything like that, the tubes and all that other stuff. So there's 177 parts that are less to go wrong. This is a 4-cylinder air-cooled. This will go up to 50 miles an hour. That one isn't, it ran a short time. This is the Auburn, kind of a nice-looking Auburn I bought from a guy who had it in his garage, and he wanted to get rid of it. And it was in tough shape, but we got it back, and I had Tom Rasmussen in Minneapolis restore it. And then we took it out to Lansing, Michigan for the big car show out there.
Beautiful.
And well, the color is all original. Everything is original. The leather in there is called elephant hide, and the top is material. And those two I had made, specially made, because it had to be look like the original, and so on. But it drives nice too. So, in fact, sometimes you wonder, you should get them done so well, you're afraid to take them out and get scratched. Or Auburn and Cord and Duesenberg.
Yeah.
The E.L. Cord run the company.
Yeah.
And so it held the job. And then here we have another Auburn called the Boattail, 1928. This is a 28 Boattail Speedster. This was, I believe it was a Minneapolis car. I can't say St. Paul, but some guy had it. And he bought it brand new. He drove up and down the streets and picked up girls and everything like that. And one day I was told that he fell in love with this one woman, and he was ready to marry her, and she jolted him. He got so mad that he stayed single the rest of his life. And then he passed on the car to another Minneapolis guy, and ended up in a museum in Rochester. And then eventually I got it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But I'm happy to have it because it's so sporty. It's got everything on it. I put the running spotlight on it, it just dressed it up. I like that kind of stuff. In those days, they didn't have beams and high beams. They had it would just a reflector. It's all it is a shiny. The background is shiny, and then the light has to reflect and come out, and that's the only light you get. So sometimes you need lots of lights. And now these here, two down here, they're hooked up to the steering down here, the turning radius, and then they turn with the car. Let's see. This is a foreign car with the American body on it. Called a Mako. I call it a Mako. It's nice. I bought it from a guy in Minneapolis, and I've had it on the run a little bit, but the trouble is I don't get to drive these cars enough. But I enjoy just looking at cars.
Yeah.
I don't have to drive them. I mean, I much would like to, but then you've got old gasoline, you've got battery problems, you got. So I just enjoy looking at them. This one here is one. My dad had one of these here in the 50s, and he brought it home. He had my brother, Dick, drive it from New York to St. Cloud. Of course, my dad got rid of the car, and later on I had a chance to buy this from a guy in St. Cloud here, so I had it painted the same color. I was trying to remember what the color was, but I was pretty young at the time. But anyway, we got very close to it. And, well, anyway, let's go to the Messerschmitt here. Messerschmitt, boy, let's see, Norm Nielsen, I believe. It was a guy from Sartell. He had this car, and he drove it. There's a little story on this one here. There's a gal that got together with this guy in Canada, and so they married over there, and they brought the car to Canada. Then after that, getting older, then he sold the car and went down to George Nielsen. But he did beautiful work, and anyway, he had this car. He drove it and he turned it over, and I had to get a new top for it, and then I restored the whole thing. But it kind of shows you the German airplane here. Right. After the war, they weren't allowed to build planes, so they built little cars for a while. The Messerschmitt, called the Messerschmitt, yeah, neat. And this one here is another three-wheeler. That's a three-wheeler, this is a three-wheeler. This is made in Burnsville. They're called the Freeway. They made quite a few of these, probably 50 of them. And but then its business slowed down later on. And then the guy from St. Cloud here, two guys got together and they bought out Freeway, and then they built these Minikin on Lincoln Avenue. And they built just a handful of them, but OSHA was giving them a hard time. So they kind of...
too many rules, right?
Yeah, as usual. Yeah. But they drive nice, that one. The Freeway, I had up to 40, but you got to be careful. You turn too sharp and you're in trouble. Anyway, the MERS cars come from Atlanta, Georgia. I was down there visiting with the guy, and he had this car down there, and so I brought it home. A cycle, called a cycle car. There's only two of these left. I was watching the Pickers the other day on TV, and they come up with some guy had a MERS for sale.
No way.
And,
you watched the Pickers?
Yeah. And so then I thought, well, geez, I got one. But I was only told at that time there's only two of them around. He said the same thing, so. But they were nice. They were a good car. There wasn't no gears in here. It runs on friction. There's a big flywheel, and that runs against another wheel on there, and then you go back and forth, and that'll give you your speed. And if you go too far, then you go the other way. You go backwards. But it eliminated all the gears and everything. So it's kind of unique. A lot of people. A lot of car manufacturers did that because it was cheaper to put out a car, you know. So that worked out good. American Austin, they made plenty of these. They made a lot of these in Butler, Pennsylvania. These were made. And the 4 cylinders, it went well. They did a good job. They were in movies. They were made a lot of, sold a lot of them. They were cute little cars. I bought a book on hood ornaments. Yeah, they're kind of neat. Rooster. So anyway.
George Nielsen.
Yeah.
Mike Murphy.
Yeah. All those guys, good guys. God, the trouble is they don't stay around forever. I didn't know him real back when, but in the later years when he had the T, and him and I ran around with this T that he built, and he did a beautiful job. But anyway, here's a 1933 V12 Franklin.
Wow.
It's just a beauty.
Oh yeah.
It come from another one that came from Atlanta, Georgia. The guy passed away, and Jeff Haslund, John's son, told me about it, and I bought it because she's one of the faster ones. But this is at the end of the company. This is at the end when already the banks were taken over in 33 already, and 34 was the last car, and so because the bills weren't paid or something. But Franklin had a big history as one of the better air-cooled cars that were ever made. It was the Franklin. And I fell in love with them because when I get in them, I know they're going to make it wherever I go, and they run smooth, and they're different from all these rest of these cars with radiators in the front ends. Beautiful. Neat. Yeah.
Hey, you know what you're doing, Roy?
Pardon?
You know what you're doing?
No.
I love it. You're giggling like a kid.
Oh yeah.
You know, you kind of laughing about, hey,
Oh, yeah.
I love this.
Oh, good.
I love it. That's beautiful. You're beautiful. I love it.
Well, good. Yeah, I'm glad. Anyway, we can start with the Jensen here. Jensen made in England, and pretty hard to get to see the picture up here. That's when I picked it up in Iowa, someplace, I believe. But anyway, we picked it up and we brought it home. The guy was a Nash guy. He had all Nashes. He had this one because it has a Nash motor in it. But they were made in England. The Jensen brothers, they built cars, but they didn't build motors. So they got a Nash motor, and they got Lincoln motors they put in them. And there's only 2 of these left, this style. There's only 2 of them, one out in upper part of California. And,
looks like it's got a sunroof.
Yeah, it has a sunroof. And
Really?
the sunroof, and then it has the steering wheel on the right side, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And a wooden dash. A lot of those early cars over there, they had put a lot of workmanship, wooden dash, and nice leather seats and everything. Yeah, this is, like I say, it's rare, but I guess it costs too much to restore.
Oh my goodness, you got a little Jay Leno thing going on.
Yeah, we were out there. Yeah. Tom Rasmussen, Jeff Haslund, Greg Ledeen, of course, Jay Leno, of course. He loves cars.
Oh, yeah.
He just loves cars.
Yep.
He loves fast cars, too. Not slow ones, fast ones. We had a good time with him. We spent a whole day out there because Jeff and Tom are experts on Franklins. So they worked on his Franklin that he had, early Franklin. Down below is a Tetra. That was Hitler had. This was made for Hitler. He made the Tetra. And Jeff Haslund, he's got one, but not with the big. He does have one with the fin, but it's unrestored anyway. So they're a neat rear air-cooled car, and so. After Hitler had this done, he says, I want you to build a people's car. A people's car? What do you think? What do you think that was, Jim? What kind
Volkswagen.
that was Volkswagen.
Yep.
So that's how Volkswagen got started. They started out, they were air-cooled at first, and they were a rear engine. And so that's how it all got started. But those cars are really sought after. In fact, Jay Leno bought one 3 years ago. So. Okay, I guess we got this room kind of,
Excellent.
unless you want to get that picture of us going across in Utah someplace, I believe. Us 3 cars that went across the United States, Gary Holsbein, Joe Murley, and myself in the middle there, that middle car, the Challenger. Mine was a Challenger.
Wow. So you named it the Challenger, or is that what the manufacturer called it?
No, that was my name because years ago when the guys went Old Steady over there, remember the car that went across the United States in 1903? That was Old Steady. And so we all give it a name.
But who went across the United States in 1903? What was his name?
Well, I can't think of his name right offhand.
That might have been the one Ken Burns wrote about.
Right, yeah.
About the car, and it's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, that's fantastic. And this was another picture which is kind of rare to come out of England someplace, or Germany rather, maybe.
Yeah.
You got a Bugatti, and a Cord, like I got, and then you got another Cord, L29, and you got a Bugatti again, and a Fiat. But isn't that something to open up a garage and see those old classic cars? These are the best cars out there. And the garage was, and I'm glad they put them away like that.
Yep.
Because that
Yep.
really is unreal. Unreal. Well, what do you think? Should we go in the other room?
Yeah.
This insulator was, when I bought the car, Holmes' car, we went by some yard and this guy had some of these laying in his yard and they were busted up and everything. And so I went over to talk to him because I'm an insulator collector. I love it, insulators. Another little hobby I had years and years ago, and I probably have 1,000 of them someplace in my house. And these are called Mickey Mouse insulators. But anyway, this one here, they go on top of a transformer, is what they did. And the big shaft going right off there, and they send the power out. And that's how it was. It's all porcelain. So this was in the guy's yard. We picked it all up, and this is from the factory. This is the one that come from the factory. So it's a factory stand that they made to haul these around. So it's nicely done, strong enough to do it. So it's kind of neat. Since I'm an insulator collector, this is the only one probably like this at all. Unreal. Oh. Boy, that's nice. Oh, beautiful. Well, we could go buy some of these here. A 1902 Baker electric car come from Duluth, Minnesota.
Hey, that was over at the Stearns History Museum.
That was at the Stearns for a while.
Yeah.
And I believe the motor was found in Lake Superior, and it was used for an anchor for a boat. So they found the anchor and put it together that way. But the guy passed away, and it became available, and I bought it. And I drove it for many years, and then the batteries get so hard to get at that I just took the batteries out because the water goes down in the batteries, and then you got no power.
Yeah.
It's a lot of maintenance. With cars, you have maintenance. Every car, sure, I have a lot of cars, but each one has a different pressure in the tires. And you got to check the batteries on them, and they go dead. Then the water in the batteries go dead. And so there's many things then because you got the oil and the antifreeze and all that. So there's a lot of maintenance, and that's why maybe I don't get them out like I should, because you got it when you do get them out and running. They got to if they break down, you could spend a year or two just get the motor out and do it. And it's just, I haven't got that much time left, I don't think. Anyway, that's a 4-cylinder Buick. That was a mess when I got it, but we got it working, and it does go on the New London to Brighton. My daughter takes that on the run now and then.
What's your daughter's name?
Yeah, Lisa. She lives in Florida. She loves to go on it. And this is the curved dash old we talked about. I went across the United States in '85, and then I went to England after that for the London-Brighton run. We took off the fenders and we took on the top because it slows you down, because it's only a 1-cylinder, but it does move. It's a good, it's a late 3, 19.3, the late 3, and it works. It was a great idea. Oldsmobile had a great idea. The engine is laying down under the seat, and the radiator's underneath the car, as you can see, the brass radiator there. So it's an eye catcher, and you still with the tiller. I was going when I come out of California, we were going through the mountains there, and I come out of one of the mountains, a tunnel, and it came out, and the other side, the cars were going by, and I was forced off to the road a little bit, and that was real bumpy. So when you got a tiller like this, you can go. It's hard to keep it straight, so you got to keep one hand over here and one hand on there. Otherwise, the bumps will just throw that wheel to turn, and I almost went down the mountain.
Whoa!
But anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, it worked out good anyway.
I would say you probably think that's one of your favorite cars.
That is. I got to take it out again every year. I got to get more of it. I used to take it on the car run, on the New London to Brighton run, many times, every year after year. But then I'm going into the 2-cylinders, a little faster cars, and a lot of the guys don't bring their 1-cylinders because they got a 2 and it's faster, and so that's what happens, because that's all those runs work anyway. This is my first car, a little brush. Wooden axle, coil springs.
Your first car was, when did you get it?
53,
Yep.
53 I got the little brush.
Is that when your passion for cars?
Yep. Well,
really?
they 52, they came into St. Cloud. The 1 and 2 cylinders from Minneapolis came down, circled. I lived on the river at that time with my dad. Came down through there, and I looked at them and I said, boy, is that neat. I didn't think any more of it. And then I told one day was a bachelor out in Foley that had a car for sale. So I went out there, and this was the little brush he had. And but it wasn't that easy to get it. I had to do a little smooth talking, but there was other people out there trying to buy it just like I was. And some guy comes in with the TV, in 53 TVs were coming in, so he tries to bring in a TV. We'll trade you, we'll trade you. But I did buy it for $350 anyway. And it worked good. And then another story, in those days I didn't have much, I didn't make much money. You start out when I was a kid, 35 cents an hour, you know, stuff like that at Bernick's. Then later on, I came across the Oldsmobile, which is took some money to get that one. So I went. It was only $300, and it come from up north. And anyway, the guy that.
When did you buy this one?
That was maybe 2 years later.
Yeah, well,
I bought this one. Yeah,
$300
was a lot of money, yeah. And so. But it was unrestored, of course. I got pictures in the other room. But so I didn't have the money at that time. So I went to Klein. I think his name was Bill Klein. I'm not sure anymore.
Klein Oldsmobile.
Right. And I said, I got a chance to get Oldsmobile. Can I? Would you loan me some money? He said, sure, sure. So he wrote out a paper, which I had to pay every month so much on it until I had it paid for. And I says, when I get it done, we'll put it in your showroom. Well, he passed away, and then his son was running the company, and he didn't care if I had it in there or not. But I says, well, I promise. Your dad, I told your dad I would. It's got to be in there. So fantastic. And it's got a do-si-do seat in the back, which is kind of, you sit backwards on it, and it's kind of neat. How that's, so they could carry more than, carry the kids back there. You don't have to see them.
Yeah, right. Are we almost there, Dad?
Yeah.
Come on, not yet.
We're going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the brush anyway. The brush, this one here, we're working on a transmission for it now because it got burned up. Now, I mean, it got wore out, and I had rebuilding, and it's all done now. I just got to put it together. But in these days, again, it's hard to get good mechanics to help you because not every mechanic can do what has to be done to these because it takes special talent to get these things in tune.
Exactly.
And the nice thing about this...
And they're a little bit more persnickety, I would bet.
Right, yeah. When I get down here, I'll show you another one after a while. This is my Cadillac, 1904 Cadillac. Come from up there in, I gotta think about it. Anyway, it's a little town way up north. The guy, Mr. Campbell, last name was Campbell up there, and past the Thief River Falls. Oslo or something, way up there. Anyway, he had it, and I got it from him, and I bought it. Just to find, just to look for these, and that's the excitement, is to find them and bring them home. That's the big excitement for me. It always was that way, as you can tell. I had to bring home a lot of them before I can get down to the end here.
Right.
But that's a sought-after car. It's got the rear engines. The rear engines, of course, is the back seat. How you get into the rear end is come through the back end.
Yeah.
And that's, but the wood on here is all good. So it's a good restorable car.
Yep.
It's got a lot of possibilities. And this one here I got from Dave Strong, another brush, a 1911 though. It's a Speedster. It's got the tank in the back, and really a neat one. And I just got it running the other day. It took, because I couldn't get the right people in here to help me put it together. And so we just got it, and we got the magneto. It's the first car a lot of the Model Ts had magnetos. You start from the battery, you go to the mag. And this one here had a mag on it, so we got it timed now, so it works good. But one thing about what Brush did with the Model T, you always went from right to left, this way, like this all the time. And then if it ever backfired, because you didn't have the spark in the right place, then it'd come back and break your thumb.
Right.
It did that. Now he did, you go the opposite way. You go like this, the other way, and you can't break your thumb that way. And that's the way he designed it. That's how the brushes are made, to go backwards. But anyway, that was a safety. So it's always easy to get this thing started. So anyway, the other one is, I drove that one on the run a couple times and parades and all over. It's just unreal. A lot of history on that one. This is a Premier. I did some trading, some cars away, and some guy traded this to me, but it cost too much money to get the thing really running. There's a Willis Knight. That's a sleeve engine. A sleeve engine. Now you can take a picture of the sleeve. That sleeve, there's no tappets or valves. There's no tappets or valves on this car. It's a sleeve, almost like the diesel engine. It's a sleeve that goes up and down, that's all. So you don't get that tappet noise you get in old cars, and the valves that burn. A farmer had this one here, and he painted it way back when, but it's a nice original car otherwise. Inside it's all original. It's got little flower pots, flower vases on the side there to decorate the inside. And this one has curtains on, so it's kind of unique. Well, here's a 32 Chrysler. Was in a fire in Minneapolis. A lot of the cars burned up in there. They put the hose on this one and saved some of it. I got 30,000 in it just to get the wrinkles out of the metal after it burns. So I got 30,000 into it, and someday I'll hope to finish it. But it's 32 was one of the better years of design. And this one here has a rumble seat also, and people love to ride in rumble seats. Another Franklin. This is a town car. We picked it out of a guy's basement. It was an open basement though. But and right next to the car was a beam that held the upstairs together. And so we kind of had to move the beam to get the car out. It's been in there so many years. The guy, as the houses get older, sometimes they start leaning. So he had to put the beam in there to hold. And so now we moved the car out, so he had to move the beam to get the car out of there. So it was a crate in Indiana someplace. But anyway, it's got a middle window in there, and I got the telephone. The guy got the phones that go in there, so the people in back can talk to the driver up down. And then we have another Auburn, like the green one in the other room.
Yeah.
This guy from out of town by Foley out there, another town, which had the fire in the 32. He had this one here, and I talked him out of this one because he promised it to somebody else. So I bought 2 other cars from him, and then I was walking out the door, and I tried to make a jab at this one. He says, yeah, well, yeah, you can have it. And I wanted it because I want that 29 Auburn. So as we were made the deal, and then we were walking away, and the other guy pulled in to buy the car. I got out of there. Oh, that was close. I took parts off of this one to get the other one, so I can get a award out of the green one, the other one that I got out of 150 cars. I got first prize. So everything has to be original.
Exactly.
So this one, so I got to put this one. We took parts off of this one. And here is the Model A, of course. It's always original colors again. It's striking, but so many Model A's, everybody had them on. Usually, in those days, everybody at least had a Model A for a while. It took Ford, he was a hard, tough guy, and he was hard on Mr. Etzel. He was very hard on Etzel, Ford. But that's the way fathers are sometimes. And I think that did Etzel in, I think, after a while. But Etzel had a lot to do with the Lincolns, the Lincoln Continentals, which we'll show those later. Anyway, so they come up with a lot of different colors, and they had their favorite colors, and they were striking colors. This is a Templar. That was Cleveland, Ohio. This was put together there. A bunch of Masons got together and put the Templars together. They made them for 3-4 years. They were good cars. The steering is unreal, it's like power steering. And it has a wheel in there that you can turn sideways so the fat man can get in there. And so they call the fat man wheel. You bend them out of the way. And it come with the camera and a gradometer. A gradometer was when you go up hills and stuff. So it's kind of a neat. And this is probably, this is a 22, very, very rare, I think. This has an aluminum body. There we are. There, just neat, huh? But it steers nice, and there's a camera, a Kodak, number 10, and they all come with that. And then this one here has, they used to be, before this year, they had the spare tire here. Then they decided to put it here. But this makes a nice trunk. You know, you got to carry all your stuff. Look at that. Look at the stuff there. It's still there yet. There was a guy down in, a friend of mine took me down in Iowa someplace, I think. And this guy had this car for sale. And of course, I bought it down there, but I'm lucky I got it because it's so rare. But she runs good and everything. It's just that it's aluminum body. Aluminum bodies were probably, the bodies were wood, and then they put the metal over it, and then they pounded on it. And then that's how they formed the metal on these. It is a neat little car, Buick. 1912. I've had this one a long time. I got a lot of history on this one because people know Vern Pearson Buick.
That was a good friend of John's.
Right, Vern Pearson Buick, and he had this. And Bernick's was on second by the Flatiron there. Bernick's was, and they had the Buick building right behind there. And I was walking through there. All the time I heard there was a car in the basement. Well, this was the car in the basement, but they had an open basement. You could just drive a car in. So I just walked down when nobody was looking and take a look at it. I did that for 2 or 3 years. I knew the car was there, but I got down there a couple times. I'm going upstairs. I told the guy, don't even talk to him. He's not going to sell it. So I put it off until one year I got in there and I got some guts. I got to get upstairs and talk to Vern. So I went up there, I talked to him for 15 minutes. And we chit-chat back and forth, and he gave me the car.
Whoa.
So I went, oh,
when you pass things forward like that, you wanted to give somebody that has the
well, it was younger
and
restore it. That's all he wanted.
Yep.
And so that's
real.
it, and that's what I did. It was a different color at this time, but then I happened to traded it for a neat car, the big Lincoln over there, and then Dave Strong, and then Strong had it from Thief River Falls. He had it for many years, and he painted it gray, which was the factory color, gray. And
so actually, Vern Pearson owned this car.
Oh yeah, he owned this car, and it was a Minneapolis. It was bought brand new Minneapolis. We got the serial number. We did the work on it, stuff like that. But anyway, it was I painted it kind of a yellow color, yellow orange, and and I liked it that color, but that's how they did it. So, and it's a kind of a rare model also. There's just a few of these around. And I used to drive it a lot, years and years ago before I traded it away. But now I got to get it back into working condition again. There's what you call another Franklin horse collar. Remember the horses had this type of collar, so they named it the horse collar. Right. 1925 Franklin. It's all original. It was out in Maine, the museum out there. And it came available, so I bought it because it was a Franklin I didn't have. Well,
hey, you need a bigger garage.
Well,
thinking about adding on?
No, I gotta stay. I gotta behave myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting up in age where I gotta slow down. But
no, you should never think that way.
No, I shouldn't think,
no,
but
you should always think you're going to run until you run out of gas.
Right,
That's when the car turns off.
Right.
It's not because you feel like it should turn off. It's because you're out of gas.
Yeah.
That's
well, the idea is to get the enthusiasm. Keep the enthusiasm going.
Exactly. That's what you have.
But this is my last car I bought, the Franklin. It was only a mile away from here. The story on this one here is this is another Franklin, a 4-passenger roadster. Usually roadsters are 2 passengers, not 4. This is a 4-passenger.
Yep.
And this was an old guy out in California around Yosemite. He pulled us out of the junkyard and restored it and drove it around Yosemite and all over. And one day he picked up 2 famous people, Slim Pickens and John Wayne.
Oh, man.
So they both had a ride in this car. So this is very unique, and it drives nice, and I just love it. And of course, he painted this color, which might not be exactly a Franklin color, but people are amazed when they see it. I just got back from Michigan, Hickory Corners out there, and I took it out there to a Franklin meet, and they love the design, of course. Called the tulip body, they call it, and then the color. So I'm real happy with that. So, and they drive. So the Franklins were engineered. The best engineers went over there too, because they had to keep the car light. Now, of course, I just found out that this car was, the Franklins were heavier cars. They were bigger, and they were heavier and everything, even though they had wooden chassis all the time up to 28. All they had wooden chassis that are forgiving. So, and that was it. They were laminated. And
laminated to really.
So then, but this is a smaller one. They went back to the smaller one. Maybe economy with the way they did it. So this is, but I love the design on this one here. I get more over there, of course. And this is John Bomer from Bruton. He owned this car, and he didn't want it no more, so I bought it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
This was put together in Minneapolis. It was a roadster at one time, and the guy with the straight window, and the guy made a speedster out of it. But it doesn't make any difference. It's got a 6-cylinder, and she runs good.
Yeah, it looks really, really, really,
yeah.
really sweet.
People love that.
Yeah, it's got that kind of sex appeal to it.
Right. Nash.
Yeah.
Nash. Farina was a Frenchman. I guess Nash was looking for designs. They run out of people in this country to design it, so they had Farina follow that up. But anyway, he had a lot to do with this one here, and then the interior here. This is 53. The interior was designed by women, and this hasn't been touched. This has never been touched. This car comes from Buffalo, New York.
Wow.
And a guy was pulling a boat behind it. That's how he used it. But look at that. Yeah, that was Farina's daughter. He designed it after his daughter.
Yep. I think that's important. Those are the stories that you have.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah.
And this one's a Hudson.
Yeah, the Hudson. This is in 52. They were hot. They were one of the fastest race cars around. And racetracks, they won a lot of races in 50. This is a 52. And this one here is the Lincoln Continental, Etzel design. He went to Europe. Ford went to Europe and got some ideas from those guys, and he had one built. So he drove it around where he was living at the time in Florida, at his cottage down in Florida. And the people loved it so much. He says, well, because they were ending up with that one there, and then what are they going to do? After that, they had to start doing something. So anyway, so they built right, and this was just beautiful design and everything. One of the best front ends on cars. Yeah, push button doors. You don't see any handles here, no.
Yeah.
Neat, huh? But it's the back end that gives it such a neat design.
It's kind of like the Tetra that you showed me.
Right,
That's
yeah.
A little bit of that
Little
Tetra
bit,
look.
yep, right.
And it just needs the fin on the back.
Boy, yeah, just that nice trunk. And of course, the spare tire, they had to put it someplace. No, I like it, Here we have Lincoln. James Hill started the Hill, the railroad. And so this was his son's car. But anyway, so his sons had a lot of cars as well as James did. He had a lot of cars. And this is the one he had in Colorado, which I have pictures of here where they hauled it out in a train car. And it shows where they put the car in there, hauled it out there. So it's got more miles by rail than it does on the road. That's why it's all in beautiful shape, because
Yeah.
it wasn't driven that
The
much.
show car.
It was at a cottage out there, and
Yep.
you had people come out for visiting, and then they pick them up from the airport from this car and take them in. So it's,
Yeah.
I think Lewis is the son name is Lewis.
You know, the fun part that I like about this is all the related supportive material you have accumulated with all your cars.
Oh yeah.
You know, without the story, it would
Yeah.
be just metal, but your story. That's why I'm here. Is,
right.
It's your story about these stories, about stories that people created
Right.
and why they created.
Right.
It's beautiful. It's all
And,
about the
and
story.
the stories as they used them, what happens, and the people they took around and picked up from the airports, and I imagine they were high dignitaries. I've had this one down in St. Paul where Mr. Hill lived in the big house.
Yeah.
This one here, this one here.
Yep,
This is his son's Lewis Hill.
Oh, okay.
But the old man built his house next door. And here's a picture of Leland. Leland was the best engineer making exact parts. So you could take one part from one car and put it in the next one. But before that, they were all handmade and they didn't fit. But he was the expert at doing that. Well, this one here is a house bus. Eklund brothers. The Eklund brothers, the story on this one, Eklund brothers build buses in St. Paul, Minneapolis or St. Paul.
Yep.
And so they build, this was their personal house bus. They made a house bus, and they went across the United States with this one here.
Yeah, camper.
And so they named it T.P. Chaskopi, which is Minneapolis names Shakopee and another one.
Right.
Anyway, it's called the Yellow Knight, but actually it was Mr. Hertz built it. Started out with called the Yellow Cab Manufacturing Company. Yellow Cab Manufacturing Company, and then the sign up there gives you a little idea of what it looked like. Now this has another sleeve engine, so it's a Knight engine in this one. And he probably had white trucks too that were made into buses.
Yep.
But anyway, and so Hertz sold to GM in '26, I believe. And so then after that, what do you think that he opened up? He started another business. He started the Hertz Rent-A-Car. And even you can walk in there and see the table, and then the table in back, and then you see the beds back there, a closet in there, and the screens around the door. And then you saw the little biffy down there, and there's a pot for the biffy.
Yeah.
And so and of course, the beds and the table, and the table goes down, and that covers up all your canned goods and everything. And the stove and the icebox were there. So it's got everything. It's got everything. One of my was the first the first Franklin I bought. This one here. Guy talked a guy out of it. He promised it to somebody else, and I talked him out of it down in Oklahoma. This is another Franklin, Deauville. Diedrich was the greatest designer, I think, in the country, but he did a lot of that, and he designed this one here, but there's only 3 of these left, and this is the best one in the bunch. And this one here has room for a trunk in the back, but he didn't put a trunk in there. And the saying is that if you can afford to ride in the Deauville, you can afford to send the luggage ahead. But it's a beautiful driving car. Just Franklin again. It's just beautiful. This one here is the Packard,
Yeah, they were
36
really odd
Packard, and this come from Minot, North Dakota. A doctor had it, and he was going to get rid of it. And one guy came up to him, and he wanted to take it and then part it out and sell parts. See? But anyway, I talked him out of it. And I just read yesterday where on this car here, when you go down the highway and you put the brake on, down the highway and you had to slow down or something, the brake on the right pad was bigger. So it would pull the car to your right instead of turning it into the other way. I wish I could. Electric shifting, so the shifting was nice on it. Anyway, it was the Hudson.
It's your newer model.
57, yeah, it was the last one. Then Nash took over. This was one of the last ones. In fact, you can tell by the door handles on that one, the Nash and this, the Hudson are the same. So they were, so they just had to try and finish it up. This one here is a Graham. They had a nice design for 3 years, and then they had to go to something else, and so they bought the cord bodies. They bought the cord bodies and made a Hollywood, called it Hollywood. But this was a nice driving car. Anyway, this was another T-Bird. I got the 2 T-Birds. This one here come up California, came up here, and it was given to the St. John's for a write-off. And so then after that, I went out there to appraise it, and I bought it for my wife on my birthday.
That's fun. I love that story.
This one here is my mother and dad's last car they bought together, and I had it painted, and but it's a beautiful car.
Yep.
Being a 63, like I say, had a nice aerodynamic design to it. There's a Model T here, Cabriolet, a 15, which is kind of rare. There's only a few of these. There used to be 2 and 3 in the state, but now there's, I think, it's down to 1. This might be the only one. I don't know where it went. But anyway, it's Ford's. I call it Ford's first convertible, because they got windows in it that you can pull up. You pull them, roll them, you pull them up. Right. But this one here, Princeton. He had the starter generator, which Dodge made in 1911, I believe it came out, and so, or 12 for sure. And so he did that for his wife, and then she drove it around for a while, and she tipped it over on its side, and so he put it away, and that's why it is today. It's just exactly the way it was then. This is my second Franklin I bought. They kept them shorter and a lighter car, and maybe cheaper in price. The big ones, the other ones were longer and different design, which I didn't care for. But this design I like, and so I was lucky to get from a guy out, and he drove this one. Probably he lived in Pennsylvania, but he drove it up to New York on the truck. So this one drives nice, beautiful. Here's another one that came available from the Haslands. The old man had it when he died. They wanted me to have it, and they made parts for Franklin. They could go across country with the Franklin, him and his son, and even his son he's an engineer now, but he was gifted right away, so he could fix. They'd take off with an old car like this and go out to New York and come back. No matter what happened, broken axle, they'd pull into a farmyard and figure out something. And this is the last car here, but this is the Harding, and there's only one of these left. This is, I got it from a guy, Mike West, out in New York, but it came from Harris Museum. This one came from Harris Museum, and it was there. And and we figured that this car.
That's in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we figured that this, and then from there it went to Reynolds Museum in Canada, up there in Canada, and then it came down here. But anyway, we figured that the grandkid built 3 of these. This was a fast car, not made for in town. It's a fast car because of the motor. The motor in here is a beautiful motor. It's from a Stutz Bearcat. Well, yeah, because when I tip over, this will all be sold, and then it'll all be broken up, and nobody will know. Well, nobody will know the stories of these things. I'm just holding it for somebody else, and I'll pass it on and let somebody else enjoy it, and so it'll stay alive. Because a lot of times, if you get too many cars, you don't drive them. Of course, in them always restoring. I got another Boattail Franklin I'm restoring. It's the most beautiful car out there, and it's working on it for 3 years, 4 years now. Dan Bernick, he's a wood guy. He had to make a whole new body, and then after that you put the metal on it and form that, even though the same metal went back on again. And now John Krippner up there by Kimball, he's doing the painting of it now.
Yep.
And the fitting, what you do is you take a car all apart, and then as you put it together, you make sure everything fits, and then you take it apart and paint it. Of course, some of the parts you have to paint on, but it's better if you paint them separately.
Right.
So there's no stress on the Buick. We didn't do that, and so the fenders crack after a while because of stress. Anytime you get stress, it breaks the paint up. But anyway.
That's what happens to me. I get a little stressed, and my paint kind of gets a little cracked.
Well, you're doing well. You do well.
Great.
You do well.
Yeah.
Good for you, Jim. Well, there you lots of signs, everything.
I got goosebumps, Roy. You are just amazing.
Well, I'm glad you think that.
No, I do. I can tell. You know, I feel it.
I never wanted to. I never wanted to do this because I don't talk well.
You know, we had a conversation. That was best.
Yeah.
You started off a little rough, but you really got going into it. It took us a little bit of time.
Oh yeah.
But I loved it. I loved it a lot.
I have a hard time. I am what I am.
Me too.
What can you say?
We are beautiful people.
Well, it just happens that
in the inside,
we're lucky.
We look like hell, but we're beautiful.
Yeah,
on the inside.
we can look, do what we can do, and that's it.
That's right.
Well, I guess that's it for that. I'll cut the lights here.